What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is your Earthmaster here on this Tuesday, May 17th date, 2022. It's about 8:11 p.m. California time out here along the West Coast. I know a little bit late, hey, but better late than never, right? 3.0 earthquake down here in this area of the globe. Map whatever you want to choose. The latest quake on the earthquake 3D globe. Let's go ahead and check out the latest movement here. On the map, flat scale map there from the USGS, showing some activity across the area. Not really necessarily picking up that movement that I just showed you. We'll go to the EMSC model real quick and see what's going on down there in this area of the world. Kind of curious to see exactly where that's at. It's a three-pointer. Looks like that earthquake right here. Off the coast or near the coast of Nicaragua area, 148 kilometers deep into that region. Although this here is showing that's a 4.3. I wonder where the three-pointer went to. We'll check it out here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and get back to the USGS map here and look at the activity kind of kicking off here. The coast of Northern California. I do want to bring this area up first because there's a whole bunch of tremor kicking up here again, folks. Check out this tremor map tonight. 517. I'm going to refresh this just to show you guys from the PNSN network, the tremor monitoring site there along the Cascadia subduction zone. This is the second night in a row that we've seen this type of feature, pretty much all the way along the entire length of the Cascadia. Yeah, we're missing a little portion here in Oregon, but that's a pretty wide swath of tremor, and we're talking about 536 epicenters of tremor today. Yesterday, what did we have? 690. So well over 1,000 tremors within the last 2 days. That's a pretty significant number. There was Oregon yesterday, kind of filling in the gap there a little bit. But man, that's a pretty broad area to see all that tremor. Normally we'll see this concentrated in a certain amount, say upper west of Seattle, around the Victoria area. They always get that 14-month scenario where they have that tremor activity for a month or so. But this is on a broad scale, folks. That's kind of what's got me a little on the uneasy side. And looking at the activity here along the inland into the North American region, from swarms up here north of Seattle to some activity around Mount Rainier. There is activity in Mount St. Helens, but not shown up there on the map. And activity off the coast here in Northern California with a couple twos kicking off here into the Gorda Plate. Pretty shallow earthquakes, about 10 kilometers or so. Nothing showing up specifically along the Cascadia megathrust, but we all know 322 years of buildup. It's definitely winding up like a spring, let me tell you. And slip rate there is pretty high. So 322 years times the average yearly slip rate, you get a pretty good number. Let's go ahead and check out the swarming activity here. It kind of looks like it came to a halt earlier this afternoon, about 1300 UTC time. Had about 12 earthquakes or so on the Devil's Mountain Fault. Now this fault extends over here around the highly populated region of Victoria, stretching across the Strait of Juan de Fuca area through the Oak Harbor and past Mount Vernon over here. Kind of ends around the Darrington area. So a pretty lengthy fault system and very capable of producing a 7.5 earthquake in this region. Now 7.5 may be more damaging than, say, perhaps the Cascadia rupture, say a 9.0. The reason why? Distance. If you got a 7.5 directly underneath Victoria here, along the Devil's Fault system here, that could be definitely more damaging than, say, for example, the 9.0 that will strike out here off the coast, but is a distance away. Now, for tsunami potential, that may be a different story. But I was reading a couple articles in regards to that fault system, and there's definitely a little scary fault up there throughout the populated area of Victoria. Seattle's got one itself. That could be more damaging than the 9.0 itself off the coast of Oregon, the Cascadia. There's the Seattle fault that runs directly through this major populated region. It's been a while since they've had a significant earthquake on there. I can't remember the possible magnitudes, but it was up there in the 7 range. So Yeah, definitely. It's we're living on planet Earth, and I'm thankful that we have plate tectonics, because if we didn't, it'd be a boring world. Let me tell you, I'm thankful for all the mountains and valleys and whatnot. Let's go ahead and check out other activity around the Mount Rainier region in the area just kind of north of or northeast of Mount St. Helens down here. We'll check out some seismographs here in a little bit, but kind of looking at some activity kicking up here southwest of the volcano. Just a couple small microquakes here, but we did have one kick up today, this afternoon, late afternoon. Looks like a 0.4, not a big earthquake whatsoever. About 2 kilometers deep, so actually pretty shallow for this region. And let's go ahead and check out. Look at that tremor again. I'm pretty impressed with that. Go ahead and check out the Mount Rainier recorded seismograph stations here in the data. There's nothing specifically up here at top where that red circle hit. That's a 0.4 that I showed you there on the map. So we're going to go with the closest one, and they're all kind of equal, aren't they? The black triangle, red, yellow. We'll go with the yellow down here. It's a 3-component broadband station. And let's see, when did that earthquake strike? Let's see. That was at 1908 UTC time. So prior to this UTC time date. And there's still activity. Look, all these little quakes here. See all those? they're in there. There's a bunch of them. There's probably a good 20 of them just on this little section. And a little bit stronger one right there. Let's go ahead and go back to the timestamp of 1908. I'm kind of getting over this weird little cold. My throat was hurting last night. Stuffy nose. And I felt better during the day. And then all of a sudden right now I'm starting to get a little stuffed up again. It's really odd. Okay, so 1908 UTC time? 1908. Where's the 1908 earthquake? Definitely not showing up on there, is it? So it must be too light for this to pick up, or too far away from the station. But there's definitely earthquake activity striking here around the region. I had a couple people tell me this is probably due to ice or snow melt that do cause, quakes in a way. Not fault system quakes, but movement, not only at the surface level, but potentially underground to an extent, I guess. But looking back here, these are the earthquakes that did show up to the southwest of the Mount Rainier area. That's going to be these quakes here off the distance, about a couple miles or so, just to the southwest of Mount Rainier. I covered this a little bit more detailed excuse me, in the update this morning. If you guys want to see a little bit more about it, go check out that video that I just I posted earlier this morning. But those are indeed the quakes, and there was a few of them. Let's see. Let's go ahead while we're checking out the volcanoes here. Let's go ahead. But like I say, look at this. Over the past couple hours, this is the more amplified readings. The lines are thicker, so that means you can pick up more activity, whether it's deep or just very, very, very small microquakes. It is picking some up. You see that? A normal line would look like this in the seismograph reading until you get to these little spikes, and that's movement being detected by the seismogram stations there. Let's go back to what I was going to check out. Mount St. Helens. Let's go ahead and check that out real quick. I know they're not reporting anything, but there is activity still kicking up here, and it could be the same thing. It could be some snow quakes or ice quakes up there. I don't know, though. That's kind of hard to believe. That's a pretty good, well-defined signature of an earthquake there at Mount St. Helens. And again, nothing being reported. I don't know why it's not being reported. It could have something to do with location. Maybe they don't know the exact location or the magnitude. I don't know, but we see it. Okay, we know it's there. And there's a couple other smaller earthquakes as well, and they're very small. This is definitely, most of these are below the 1.0 magnitude level, but the thing is, they're still there. There's still earthquake activity. Checking out the previous day, which would include our afternoon timestamp here along the west coast. Again, look at these lines. They've squashed out. I'm not for sure if we can adjust this up here or not. Let's see if we can. But I notice the seismograph lines themselves are much thinner. See, they're much thinner now. Even more thinner with this one. But definitely still a little earthquake here. And you got to remember some of these little, those are not specks on the computer screen here or your TV. Those are little microquakes as well in the mix. Actually, it looks like I might have a spot here on my computer I'll have to fix. I can kind of see it right there. You guys probably can't see anything, but I see it on my computer. I'll clean that here in a little bit. So, all right, this back out of the volcano area, but we're still kind of, like I say, there's still a lot of uptick in earthquake activity here throughout the Pacific Northwest with the massive amount of tremor along the Cascadia and some back-building pressure up here along the plate boundary or inside the plate. In this aspect, it'd be the Gorda plate. Gorda plate extends up to about here, the Juan de Fuca plate, and then of course you got the Explorer plate up here. It's not just one Juan de Fuca plate. There's actually 3 separate little sections there if you want to get technical. And that's where we're kind of seeing some activity up there on the Gorda, or down there in the Gorda plate. Okay, Yellowstone National Park. Not a whole lot going on throughout Idaho, Montana, or the Yellowstone area here in Wyoming. Checking out the seismograph stations here. Across the overview, a little bit of activity still showing up here along the eastern section of the park. And it looks like that activity showing up here on Holmes Hill as well. You can see those two little distinct marks. Those are distant earthquakes, but they're more localized to over here around the Parker Peak area. You can see that. They're more well-defined. I did have the scientists in charge at the Yellowstone USGS Center there emailed me earlier. Michael, I believe his name is. Thank you very much for that email. He sent me a super nice and a super long email that I put up in my last video, so please check that out. It will be provided as a up next video here at the end of this video, so make sure you guys check that out if you haven't already. He explains kind of the technical difficulties on the locations of these earthquakes and the exact magnitudes and the how the USGS puts these earthquakes into the catalogs and whatnot, as far as, you know, being sent out to a notification, as far as them displaying on the USGS map. So pretty cool. Again, I appreciate it. Looks like a little earthquake activity here picking up here within the last couple hours. Got a little spike of an earthquake there along the northwestern corner of the park. Also shown up here on Maple Creek area, Holmes Hill as well. No major swarms to report, no major activity, and of course, I don't see any signs of any magma movement, folks. So no doom and gloom for this video. Let's go back here to the USGS map, and let's go ahead and check out California. Let's go ahead and check this out. Getting a pretty good swath of activity. Look at this. All up and down the center part of the Sierra Nevada here eastward. Notice that? Quite a bit of uptick in movement here along the eastern crest and into Nevada of activity. This whole area here wasn't there a couple days ago. In fact, it's been very quiet for this region. Most of this well, it looks like we had a 2.5 down there. But the majority of this below that level and scattered about. Not any specific swarming going on, just a overall increase in pressure dynamically here across this little region. And that's how we see that's kind of how you figure out regional pressure, and that's a very good example of it over the last 24 hours with that microquake activity there. Also here around the Las Vegas area, northwest of Las Vegas. Stand by for a second. I had to take a drink because, man, I'm not for sure what's going on. I can't lose my voice box. That would not be good. It's like a DJ or a TV host or something. You can't lose your voice. All right, guys. Let's see. Yeah, so a little bit of activity here around the Spotted Range. Not for sure exactly what that is. Indian Springs Valley, of course, is up. Kind of looks like it's up there in the mountains. Some of that pretty shallow at the surface level, and then some pretty deep. So a little bit of activity. And there is fault systems all throughout Nevada, quite a bit, right? a lot of mountains, a lot of different unnamed faults throughout the area. But any major activity? Not at the moment. Ridgecrest area kicking off here. Someone asked me on Messenger, and you can send me a message via earthmastermel@gmail.com or on Facebook, Twitter, here on YouTube, wherever you want, if you have any questions. They were kind of asking about the Garlock fault structure, and if that is the fault system that the July 4th and the July 5th, 2019 Ridgecrest earthquakes took place on. And no, that was not the fault system. It was actually up here a little bit north of the Ridgecrest area. It was on the airport lake fault zone. It's a very small fault system, but it did produce that significant earthquake activity back in 2019. Had nothing to do with the Garlock fault structure, but we did notice a little increase in movement and a bulge of activity seen from the satellite here following that earthquake activity in 2019 on the Garlock fault structure. So I think a lot of people kind of downplay this region. I think it's got more potential than what they're stating. But it's been a while since we've had a full rupture on that Garlock fault zone. Southern California area, a little bit of activity off the San Andreas fault zone. Once again, northeast of the Desert Hot Springs area, up here in the, what is that? Long Canyon area, in the canyon regions. But the majority of this, about 8 kilometers into that canyon, or below that canyon. So a little activity, a little spotty activity on the North American side of the plate boundary, which is the San Andreas Fault, right? One earthquake here in the last hour, a 1.0. Little earthquake here, and this is what bugs me. I don't want to see too much swarming going on. If we start seeing a swarming out here along the San Andreas Fault here in the southern end, I'm definitely going to be issuing an alert for the possible big one kicking off here. We do see swarms down here on the Brawley seismic zone, but when you start getting super close here to this baby, it's wound up like a spring, and you don't want to. It's kind of like you don't want to mess with the. I can't remember how that phrase goes. If you mess with the horns, you get the bull, or if you mess with the bull, you get the horns. You don't want to mess with this baby right here. Eventually, it is going to pop and produce up to an 8.1 magnitude earthquake. Luckily, this thing doesn't run through Los Angeles, right? Imagine that. But it will definitely create some havoc out there with all sorts of soil issues and whatnot. So, man. But we don't want to see swarms going on this close. But this earthquake, not a big one. It's a 1.7, but it's up there on the Brawley seismic zone. A little bit close for comfort there at the southern end of the San Andreas Fault zone. Beautiful state of Oklahoma, Kansas, pretty quiet. Only a couple small earthquakes out there. Texas as well. Not a whole lot of movement going on. We did have a 3.0 earlier this afternoon, UTC time there of 5:18:0100 at about 4.9 kilometers. New Madrid zone has backed off in activity. Not a whole lot being reported in the eastern seaboard, and the rest of the country looks pretty quiet across the region. Guatemala, we had one earthquake here. Actually, it looks like on the Mexico side of the border. 4.4 kicking off there inland at 10 kilometers. Pretty shallow earthquake. And here we had a 4.3 in the Nicaragua area at 147.7 kilometers into the Middle America Trench. South America region, not a whole lot of activity. It's been kind of spotty here over the last couple days, but the majority of this quake activity, deep once again, man. 211 and 260 kilometers there for a couple fours into the Peru-Chile Trench zone, adding some back building of pressure up along, you guessed it, the Peru-Chile Trench. Pretty significant subduction zone. Out here in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge near the Ascension Islands area, this one, older earthquake from late last night, still on the map though, 5.0. No further subsequent movement throughout the Atlantic. Looks like the South Sandwich Islands area. That was, looks like earlier this morning, a 4.6 at 60 kilometers. One earthquake over here. Surprised the USGS is reporting a 2.3 in Kosovo. That's a little odd, right, to report a 2.3 on the map? I've never seen USGS do that. Pretty cool, though. It'd be nice if they did report some of these smaller quakes, such as when the EMSC does. There's got to be a way to integrate that into the system. There has to be a way. So if you guys are watching USGS, see if you can't mix that into the maps here. I think that'd be kind of cool. Thought I felt something shaking here. I think it's all in my mind. A little bit of activity outside of Baghdad into the, well, this is the Iran area. Swarm of quakes, very shallow. A couple fours kicking off there in the desert towards the mountains, and one earthquake outside of Afghanistan, 4.1, pretty deep into the mountain range. Notice today we still seen a significant arrow increase, and I've always pointed out this area. It kind of gives that arrow effect there and pressure dynamics. If you pull up the general plate movement here, it pretty much will draw an arrow where we expect to see further increase in activity, or at least general earthquake activity. And that was indeed the story today across Papua New Guinea and the Philippines area, all around the Philippine plate on the western and the northern side, where we're seeing a couple 4s and 5s kick up here. We've got a little swarm of activity off the coast of Tokyo, south. This is into the trench. Missy Mimi's is not here, so I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce this name. But it is close to the, you know what? She did an excellent job, I believe, of pronouncing that last time. I'm going to have to take some notes on that. But there's a little swarm of activity kicking up there. And also a deeper earthquake movement this afternoon south of Tokyo onto this little plate boundary. 4.5 at 144 kilometers deep into that region. Up here in the Sea of Osk, we got a 4.1. That one late last night. Some movement here north of Tokyo. This one earlier this afternoon. So a little bit of increase in activity throughout the Japan region. Java Trench has backed off. Nothing going on since that earthquake there a couple days ago. We had a 5.8. Since then, nothing. Nada squawking out there in the Java Trench area. Hawaii, what do we got going on here? A little handful of quakes with some new movement near the Helena Slump. That's all we need. That thing kicking off here. This area, I kind of did a little update on that. The tsunami potential from that thing if it does fail. I'm not for sure if it will or not, but I kind of covered that. There's a couple articles on that possible scenario for a mega tsunami if that thing were to fail out there. But that's kind of where we're seeing a 2.3. Pretty shallow earthquake there around the Helena fault system, Helena slump region. Let's see what else we got. Nothing going on out there. The Loihi Seamount and the southeast region of Hawaii. Just a couple little handful of earthquakes out there. All right, let's see what else we got here. We checked the Tremor, Yellowstone. We checked that all out. Let's go ahead and get into space weather. Most of the time, if we have a very active space weather pattern, I will pull that up first. But right now, things are kind of mellow. But notice here, folks, a 3-day geomagnetic forecast has been amplified a little bit with expected 3 to 4 KP indexes here, May 19th, May 20th time frame. And I believe that is from coronal hole activity. The centered coronal hole has been facing us here for a day or so. And, of course, that solar wind speed going to be amplified, providing us with that KP index possibly ramping up there to 3 to 4 with some storming at the higher latitudes possible. And solar flare activity, of course, we have some ginormous sunspots, and they're looking more and more awesome every time I refresh this page here. 3014, a major culprit possibly producing some flaring. 3007 is going away. Bye-bye. Didn't really provide any sufficient flares. But there's also a couple other ones here. 3018, the newest sunspot here on the disk of the sun. Does have a little bit of interdynamic mixing, not as much as 3016 or 3014. But man, they are beautiful. They're very large sunspots. And they're growing. They're getting stronger. So we got to watch this as the coming days put these into the Earth directed bullseye shot if anything were to pop off. So look at these guys. Definitely pretty impressive. Let's see what the probabilities stand at. Still looks like about 15% chance for an X flare, M flare at 35, and the C flare category at 99% certainty because Well, we are around that C flare category currently, right? C flare here. And you can see the solar X-ray flux 1 minute data showing that activity continuously in the C flare region. Nothing really popping off. We did come close to an M flare. I think we may have even reached the M flare category there, it looks like, earlier. But definitely getting ready for some. Grab your popcorn. We'll see what happens here in the coming days, folks. I think things are going to be a little interesting. Some further development. That's nothing new, right? On the far side of the sun, we can't really see it, but there's a little quick peek of the active regions and potential back around the bend. So following this large group of activity that's kind of facing us, looking at some more activity here for us to eat some popcorn with and kind of see what it will bring. All right, guys, don't forget to check out my previous video for the USGS. Michael, he emailed me there from the Yellowstone USGS, and kind of talked a little bit about. I kind of asked him why the Yellowstone activity hasn't been reported and what he thought about it. But he did email me. Make sure you check it out in the previous video. Let's go ahead and check out the seismograph stations here at Mount Lassen. Looks pretty quiet there. Not a whole lot going on with that one. Let's see here. Yeah, a little activity, very small movement. This is some weird adjustment, but just a couple very small quakes there at Mount Lassen region. All right, folks, make sure you guys like the video. Definitely notice a major increase in likes recently. It looks like a little earthquake coming in here to the Japan region currently on the seismograph. I'm not seeing anything. Well, there is that 5.1 just showing up right now around the Mariana Trench. We're seeing that pop up on the Japan station. Not on this one. This is Chile, but the one south of there, we've seen that 5.1 pop up here. That's a little signature of a very distant earthquake, and that's kind of what we're seeing there from that 5.1 right around the Mariana region. So still, like I mentioned, definitely a pretty active area around the Philippine plate right now. So just keep an eye on that area, and of course if anything pops up, we will provide an update out there. So all right, guys, we're going to bounce out of here. Enjoy your evening, and make sure you guys give a thumbs up here on this video. It's definitely been helping out a lot with the YouTube algorithms. They do look for that type of stuff to put the video out, and that definitely helps us out. That's the least that I can ask there, and I do appreciate it. Give a thumbs up for this video. We'll chat you guys a little bit later on. Stay safe, and we'll chat you guys tomorrow sometime. Peace.